Thank you very much, Shabbat Shalom. I'm honored that you have chosen to join me once again. Every week about 20 or 25 people watch these shows, and about 45 or 50 get the audio version sent to them. And of course they are posted on the web page, and I'm sure some people enjoy them that way. I'm thrilled to be able to continue to provide them for you, and I hope you continue to get something from them. And I'm so thankful for the comments that I get from some of you telling me that a part of something that said touch you or makes you think in a new and different and exciting way. And I also appreciate those of you honest enough to tell me how much you love putting them on, because they help you drift off to sleep. There's a part of doing them that takes me back to the early 70s when I was a disc jockey on a local FM station. Sometimes I really enjoyed doing the 12-hour shifts on the weekends, but I always had a great time playing music and talking to whoever wanted to listen. I've also received notices from some of you that there are occasional problems with the sound recording of these video presentations, and I will be working on it to improve the sound quality. And of course, when I say I will be working on it, I of course mean I will call someone who actually knows what they are doing, and we'll try to get this working flawlessly. Some others have mentioned that the rocking or davening I can be prone to is disruptive. I've got to tell you, I don't realize it at the time, but I will try my best to sit still. Sometimes I simply get caught up in the moment of what we're talking about. And again, friends, while listening or watching, send some positive energy to anyone you might know, or anyone we mention who might be ill or suffering in any way. Think of your fellow man, lend him a helping hand. Put a little love in your hearts. We enter a new part of the Torah tonight, an incredibly exciting whirlwind odyssey, the book of Numbers. And so it begins, bamidbar, in the wilderness. Friends, while Leviticus was a book of absence of movement, Numbers is the book that tells the story of a journey. It is wholly about movement, and yet it begins with a census. 1, 2, 3, 4. Can I have a little more? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I love you. We call this book Numbers. Its 10 opening chapters are like a continuation of the priestly writings from Leviticus. It opens with an amazing census, which is why we do call it Numbers. And remember, friends, the English names are for the theme. The Hebrew names are different. They're for the first words, and the Hebrew words tell us that this is in the wilderness. And that is actually a better indicator of the theme than the Greek arithmoi. There was also a very interesting rabbinic designation of this book as Omesh Hapakudim, the fifth of reckonings, which pointed to its pageantry of tribal roll call in its place among the 5 books. There are power struggles, rebellions, trials by ordeal, instructions in the Nazirite vows, and fear. And this is the only biblical book concerned solely with one generation. It recounts the story of the wilderness generation, a unique generation like no other, with a story like no other. And this is a different type of biblical book. Genesis may have had that strange blessing of Jacob ending it. Deuteronomy has the Song of Moses. But this has the amazing prophecies of Balaam, that brilliant centerpiece like archaic poetry with talking animals and humor, and we'll talk much more about it when the time comes. This is a book about a journey. It's about wilderness wanderings and trials and upheavals for a nation in the making. The journey as a theme goes back to the oldest known book on earth, the Epic of Gilgamesh. And we have seen it in Homer's great epic poem, The Odyssey, as a search for self. More recently, we've seen it in Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, and in our time, in The Wizard of Oz. The journey is a metaphor for human lives and experiences, and connects our world of dreams with our world of reality. The journey can involve the individual or the group. In the book of Numbers, it is both. It is not only the people's journey from Sinai to Canaan, but it is Moses' journey from where he first saw God to where he dies. This is about an entire nation in motion with a visible miracle. The column of cloud and fire and miraculous feeding through manna taking place daily over a 40-year period. This is the only time in the Torah, my friends, that miracles are in fact a daily part of life. And yet, with daily miracles come daily complaints and grumblings and rebellion and discontent. This is a return to Exodus. The Israelites are on the move, and we have the reconnaissance mission, which resulted in the entire generation which left Egypt being fated to die. And from a stasis position in the last book, they are forever now on the move. But after the amazing presentation of tribes rallying around their banners, we see only a motley crew of malcontents churning with complaints, so much so that on more than one occasion God threatens to wipe out everyone. And what happens? Moses fails his test and is forbidden from entering the promised land. Miriam and Aaron die. Joshua is chosen for leadership. This was a generation with a slave mentality. Yet this is a people that was meant to realize a grand destiny. And too many of us today still have a slave mentality, and we are all meant for our own grand destiny. According to the numbers, there were 603,550 male adults. It sounds a little like that song from Rent. Not including the tribe of Levi, who were an elite group with a special role, almost like a Praetorian Guard. But instead of guarding a king or emperor, they guard the tent of meeting, the sanctuary, the most sacred space of all, and the abode of the greatest king of all. That would put the number of people at over 2 million, something simply not possible. And friends, with those numbers, only a few would have actually had the true experience of Egypt. But all have taken it on as having happened to them. And this is what we're to do on Passover. This male census of those from age 20 shows the tribal breakdown based on military conscription. Whereas the Levites were counted from 1 month on, because Levites are dedicated to God their whole lives. And living past a month puts you past immediate infant mortality. Yes, this is a book of a journey through the wilderness, and it contains an unspoken, incredibly powerful message, one applicable in everyone's life, and one too often forgotten, friends. Your life is a journey, and like this generation of sojourners, you can't go back. And this journey takes place in that locale where so many journeys occur, in the wilderness. What is the wilderness? We've seen it before throughout the entire Torah and throughout history. It is where the baser animalistic part of ourselves, represented by Esau, went to live after selling his birthright. It's where Moses told Pharaoh that the people needed to go to have a festival for their God, where the slave nation feared they would die due to its unknown possibilities. It is where we all have to pass through to reach our promised lands. And friends, you're in very good company. These are a few of the individuals we read about who journeyed through the wilderness. Abraham, who journeyed to leave his home to be the founder of a great nation, and again to take his son Isaac and offer him as a sacrifice to prove his devotion. Ishmael, who with his mother Hagar wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba, where God saved them and promised Ishmael too would be the father of nations. Moses, a 3-time journeyer. While in the wilderness he came across the burning bush and became the chosen messenger of God, who then led the people of the Exodus through the wilderness back to Mount Sinai to receive the Ten Commandments. And finally, through the wilderness to bring the people to the promised land. And there are others like John the Baptist, Jesus, Mohammed, Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, or Enlightened One, and of course, you. Every one of these leaders crossed the same wilderness you each cross. Each of these is allegorical of the journey we each have to undertake. The wilderness isn't out there. It's in here. It's that internal desert of doubt and fear and memories and regrets that we have to face. And like them, when you cross it, you cross into your promised land, and you too receive love, faith, and redemption. There are places I remember all my life, though some have changed. Some forever, not for better. Some have gone, and some remain. All these places have their moments with lovers and friends I still can recall. Some are dead and some are living. In my life, I've loved them all. And as you undertake your journey, friends, I want you to think about the story about the philosophy professor who stood before his class and wordlessly picked up a large empty jar and proceeded to fill it with golf balls. He then asked the students if the jar was full, and they agreed that yes, it was. He then picked up a box of pebbles and poured them into the jar. He shook the jar lightly, and the pebbles rolled into the open areas between the golf balls. He asked the students again if the jar was full, and again they agreed that it was. Next he picked up a box of sand and poured it into the jar. The sand filled up everything else. And he asked once more if the jar was full, and once more he was met with a unanimous yes. To finish, he produced 2 bottled beverages from under the table and poured the entire contents into the jar, effectively filling the empty space between the sand, and the class laughed. Now, said the professor, I want you to recognize that this jar represents your life. The golf balls are the important things: your family, your children, your health, your friends, and your passions. If everything else was lost, and only they remained, your life would still be full. The pebbles are the other things that matter, like your job, your house, your car. The sand is everything else, the small stuff. If you put the sand into the jar first, he said, there's no room for the pebbles or the golf balls. The same goes for life. If you spend all of your time and energy on the small stuff, you will never have room for the things that are important to you. Pay attention, my friends, to the things that are critical to your happiness. Spend time with your children. Spend time with your parents. Visit with grandparents. Take your spouse out to dinner. Celebrate your passions. Play another 18. There will always be time to clean the house and mow the lawn. Take care of the golf balls first. The things that really matter. Set your priorities. The rest is just sand. And when one of the students asked about the drinks, the professor smiled and said, the drinks just show you that no matter how full your life may be, there's always room for a drink with a friend. In the fury of the moment, I can see the master's hand in every leaf that trembles, in every grain of sand. Enjoy your journeys, my friends. There's no need for malcontentedness or grumbling. Take care of the things and the people that really matter. And for those interested, we will be doing a memorial service for our friend Bruce's father. So send your good wishes. And thank you once again for joining me. Have a wonderful weekend. Shabbat Shalom.